Welcome to Ryan's Running Reviews in partnership with Roadrunner Sports, and today we're taking a look at a light to moderately cushioned neutral daily trainer. I'm talking about the Topo Cyclone 3, so let's run with it. Before I get started, I do want to say these shoes were provided to me by Roadrunner Sports. However, no one had a chance to preview this video, and this file synopsis is my own. I'd also like to say please leave a like on the video and consider subscribing. Here we go. The Topo Cyclone 3 is a low stack, lightweight, up-tempo, neutral daily trainer. Great for runners that want a bit more ground feel, a more minimalistic shoe overall, or something just lighter in general. Now, funny enough, a shoe like this a couple years ago would be considered normal, but in today's age where shoes are pushing well beyond the 40mm mark, this is definitely a more minimally cushioned option. Now, for someone who likes the Cyclone 3, but maybe just wants more foam underfoot, Topo has a very similar option, and that is going to be the Spectre 2. It's pretty much just a larger version of the Cyclone, in my opinion. I really like this, same kind of foam in the midsole, very breathable upper. And then if you're not familiar with Topo as a brand, they do things a little bit differently. They have super wide foot-shaped toe boxes. It gives your toes room to splay out once they hit the ground. I really do appreciate that. A more narrow, secure midfoot and a low heel-to-toe drop. Most of their shoes have a 5mm offset. The Topo Cyclone 3 costs $150, which is a bit more than I was expecting for such a minimal shoe. As far as the stack height goes, we have 28 in the heel, 23 in the forefoot for, again, that relatively low 5mm drop. And as far as the weight goes, that's kind of one of the shining points of the shoe. It comes in at 6.9 ounces for a US men's size 9, and you definitely notice how light this thing feels. It is really, I think, one of the key points of what makes this shoe wonderful. The shoe does fit true to size, and of course we had that foot-shaped Topo toe box, a lot more volume up here. It's a personal preference thing. I know some people prefer a more snug experience on their uppers, and I do actually like having this additional volume, mainly because I think over the long term, it's probably better for your toes to be able to kind of splay out and spread out instead of being smushed together. So didn't feel like it was too much volume, but it is definitely a different feel compared to a traditional running shoe, and it's one I quite like. The upper material itself is a very thin, very open and breathable mesh. I'd say breathability is like a 10 out of 10 here. Almost feels like a super race day shoe upper, if you will, and I think partially explains why this shoe is so light. The tongue feels very much like a Topo experience. It's fairly thin, lightly padded, not gusseted, and has a small rope loop that interacts directly with the laces to help keep it in place, and I think it's executed perfectly. The tongue doesn't move around that much at all. The one, I guess, minor complaint I do have is this is a luxury tax item on such a light shoe is I wish it was gusseted, mainly because sometimes when you put your foot into the shoe, you get a little bit of bunching on the sides and you have to take the moment to spread it out and get it to lay perfectly flat. No issues while running or anything like that, but if I could, in a perfect world, have this be a gusseted tongue, I would. Then if we move towards the back of the shoe, plenty of padding. I'd say it's light to moderate in the ankle and Achilles section, and a fairly minimal heel counter overall. Thought the lockdown was good. I think it could be slightly better, get to that great level, mainly because I just tried the Asics Metaspeed Sky, and that's a very minimal upper, and they had a really well-structured heel counter, and I thought the lockdown there was solid, and I think Topo could do something similar here with the Cyclone, because we don't want the upper to become bulky or super well-structured, but I do like the fact that Asics had that slightly aggressive and well-structured spine on the back of their heel counter. I think Topo, again, could execute something very similar in the Cyclone without having to add a whole bunch of structure and weight, if that makes sense. So thought it was good. I think it could be excellent if they make that change, but very happy with this experience. Very breathable, plenty of room up front. Again, kind of like that super race day shoe upper feel, and just overall really like what Topo has created here. And then if we move on to the midsole, they opted for the good stuff. We have brand name Pebax foam from heel to toe. There's no plate stiffening element or anything like that in this midsole. It's a fairly dense, resilient, slightly bouncy material. You don't feel a whole lot of bounce in this shoe just because there's not a ton of midsole here in general. If you want a little bit more squish, bounce, and pop, I'd say upgrade to the Spectre 2. Again, I think these shoes serve two different audiences. The Spectre 2 is going to have that same name brand Pebax foam, but with a much higher stack height. This has, I think, 37 and 32, so a good bit more. Just depends on what you are looking for. Now, I think Pebax is the right choice here because, like I said earlier, it's a fairly firmer, resilient foam. It's not that easy to bottom out, and when you have such a thin midsole, you want something that can hold up when you put a ton of energy into it, and I was actually quite impressed. I'm happy they chose this material in particular. If we flip the shoe over, it's a fairly smooth traction pattern with exposed Pebax foam through the midfoot. It has more of that race day outsole feel, and that's partially what this shoe is for, up tempo and or race day for some runners. And I really like the design element here. I know it's a very small thing. It's just the bottom of the shoe. Who cares? But it's cool to see the little touches put into a shoe, and to have the Topo branding throughout, I think just looks awesome. So that's me just kind of fanboying over an outsole design, but you get to watch it and hear it. And overall, I think it works well. I probably wouldn't take it on grass, gravel, and things like that, just because I maybe prefer some deeper lugs. But I think for road running, I didn't have any complaints whatsoever. So how did the Cyclone 3 perform? Well, this is one of those shoes that surprised me. I did not expect to like it as much as I did, and I will definitely be adding it into the rotation, mainly because most of the time I feel like most shoes are super soft, thick, and bouncy with the Ultra Max cushion stack height, and I kind of want to balance that out and kind of make my lower body, foot, ankle, and everything else work in a different way, and that's what this does. It's kind of like eating your vegetables if you don't like them. I love eating my vegetables, but this is just a good way to mix things up and provides a fun experience. It isn't like something like, oh great, I have to run in the Cyclone. It's like, oh, this is going to be a fun run, because I think the P-Back's midsole punches well above its stack height. Very smooth, very minimal, moves with your foot very well. Now, I don't think this shoe is for everyone, just because yes, you do need that lower body, ankle, calf strength to use something that has a lower stack and a more minimal setup, especially if you're used to those high stack running shoes. So definitely keep that in mind. But I think it's a good thing to have. And not only did I love running in it, but I loved walking in it as well. It was a wonderful casual shoe. So kind of a nice all around running shoe that I thoroughly enjoyed. The longest run I took it on, I believe it was like 8 or 9 miles, which for me is about what I'd probably use this for. Threw some strides in, did a little bit of faster work in it. I think performed better than I expected. Again, the P-Back's foam, I think, is the right choice here. You don't really get a whole ton, a lot of squish and bounce, just because it is so thin, and there's plenty of ground feel, but I didn't feel like I was bottoming it out and just kind of feel like I'm running on the ground, or didn't feel like the foam was completely dead. So nice job, Topo. Really like it. Again, not for everyone. You definitely want to be aware of, how minimal this is, how flexible it is, and kind of ease into it if you've never tried a shoe like this. But for me, I think I'm going to add it in. And also too, if you're looking for a kind of more minimal casual shoe, this thing is quite enjoyable. Well, that concludes the review. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Cyclone 3, and are you someone who would go towards a more minimally cushioned running shoe? I would love to hear from you. I'm Ryan from Ryan's Running Reviews, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.